they opened it, which I knew they would, but I kind of cleaned around itself. Also, if you come by Friday and don't see the van, Brother Dexter um, is going to come get the van so he can load up Sister Anderson, Rebecca, so she could come to the funeral. It wasn't. I didn't feel it was right for them to try to rent a van or rent something to try to get it when we have it right here. Um, and also, other thing, and I apologize. We did have two names of families. We got them late because of everything that was going on. I knew me and Sister William and the congregation would have a chance either to get stuff. So my goal was to try to give them something this week and have them come out today, but with everything going on, I even forgot to tell Sister Linda to come home. So I will have her reach out to, I get Brother Rivers to reach out to the family that he gave, and Sister Linda to reach out to the other one and see what they come on Sunday, maybe, and we'll present them with something, a check or something, or something. So, better sometimes it's better if you never let them know what we're still thinking about them. Also, lastly, Sunday, uh, I'm asking everybody that can and will to try to wear some type of red or black or both. Um, the bishop is visiting the churches in the Florida countries. He's visited all churches, but because he's not able to visit all 33, what he's asking each church to do is a 2-minute video, a virtual tour of the church, and have some of the members kind of greet the bishop in their own way. So what we're going to do is we're going to put together a 2-minute video itself of the grounds, the sanctuary, the baptismal pool, a little bit of the dining hall, and then have some of the members just stand in front of the camera and greet the bishop, say whatever you want to say, however you want to say it. Don't be too bad, but and then to put the video together for all the different churches. And it will be presented. We're just going to visit, I think, it's 10 churches that we have in Quincy. So we have that going on. With that being said, let's open up and pray.
I don't know if everybody knows. You probably don't know it, but we had another member of the community, Lindsay Butler. He expired last Thursday.
Okay.
He stayed right now, like he went out to that dirt road there.
And I think somebody mentioned that at the repast today when we talked about Brother Hayes. We said, did somebody else pass? Because I think his funeral was, they don't have the plans for his funeral. So let's keep them in your prayer. As we see, I always didn't understand. My great grandma said when they say every carries an influence. And it seems like this time of year, no, it seems like everybody's just dying for 2023. Carries in prayer. Let's pray. Good gracious and Heavenly Father, we thank you, Rick, for allowing us another opportunity to gather in your presence. Whether we are here in the sanctuary, on the various streaming channels, on the conference line, Lord, you made way out of nowhere today, Lord. You allowed us to navigate various obstacles and byways to allow us to get here. So we thank you right now, Lord. Lord, we take this opportunity to ask you to continue to comfort, continue to strengthen, continue to encourage, and continue to uplift the families of the loved ones that have transitioned from this earthly home to the eternal resting place right now, Lord. And Lord, while the death angel is in the community, Lord, we ask you to dispatch your angels to remove that death angel from this community right now, Lord. And Lord, we just know that your will be done, Lord. So while your will is being done, give us the wisdom, courage, and wisdom and understanding to accept thy will. And Lord, as we get ready to teach your word tonight, Lord, open us up to receive what you have. Continue to speak to us and through us. This we ask your son in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
So, if I'm not mistaken, last week, the last couple of weeks, we kind of finished Exodus 17. We talked about the Amalekites attacking, if I'm not mistaken, attacking Moses, or attacking the Israelites, except that her and Aaron stood on both sides of Moses, and held his hands up. It is always good to have people there that can hold you up in times of trouble. But one other thing, and I can't remember if I mentioned it, while Joshua was down there fighting, all they saw was Moses' hands up. Every time his hands up, that's a signal to attack. Every time hands go down, that was a signal during that time to retreat. So the Lord made way for, even though Moses was praying with his hands up, them in the valley didn't know what was going on. So at the end, if you notice, the Lord told Moses to write it down so Joshua will remember what happened, because he wanted Joshua to realize it wasn't just because of his doing. It wasn't because Joshua was so great of a warrior itself. It was because God led him through it. And we have to realize a lot of the times when we're dealing with people, dealing with battles, dealing with life, sometimes it's not because we're so good, we're so conniving, we're so spiritual, that we were able to maneuver through that situation. It was because God had his hand on it. So when we get to chapter 18, um, we take kind of a different turn with Exodus chapter 18. So let me read the first 6 verses, and we'll kind of go from there. So now Jethro, the priest of Midian and the father-in-law of Moses, heard of everything God had done for Moses and for his people Israel, and how the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. After Moses had sent away his wife Zipporah, his father-in-law Jethro received her and her 2 sons. One son was named Gershon, for Moses said, I have become a foreigner in a foreign land. And the other was named Eleazar, for he said, my father's God was my helper. He saved me from the sword of Pharaoh. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, together with Moses' sons and wives, came to him in the wilderness, where he was camped near the mountain of God. Jethro had sent word to him, I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and your 2 sons. Let me stop right there for a second. And now the war is kind of over with right now. They won the battle. Now they're just kind of hanging out. And Jethro sends word to Moses that I'm coming to see you. And I'm bringing your wife and your sons back. But I want us to notice something. That first verse says that Jethro heard of everything God had done for Moses and for his people Israel, and how the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. Now, I want us to think about something. This was a time where they didn't have cell phones. This was, matter of fact, I think it's safe to say all of us in here can remember a time when cell phones was just coming out. And the cell phones they had wasn't these right here. They were car phones. You had to have that big old phone in the car that you had to plug in the ladder. Um, that's what I heard. I ain't that old. I seen the pictures of it.
Mm.
I seen the pictures of it. But and really, even before that, some of us, I seen the pictures of this about the Beatles and all of that. So,
Yeah.
but there was a time before all of that. I mean, it wasn't no news. It wasn't CNN. It wasn't CBS. It wasn't WCTV. It wasn't nothing. The only thing you had was a pigeon, and you had to tie something to it and send it away. But that just goes to show, news will always travel. You'll be amazed, and it seems like if a fight breaks out in McChapel at 8 o'clock, by 8:10, everybody gonna know about it. And not everybody, not only in the community, people in New York and all of that. Gonna be, and sometimes, watch this, news travels so fast that they call you, asking you about something you heard about. And you have to sit there and say, hold on, wait a minute. Let me find out what's going on. Um, so we see news travel. So Jethro has heard about what the Lord had, what God has done through Moses. And Jethro being a priest himself was probably amazed and probably thankful and grateful too. And maybe was proud of Moses because that was his son-in-law. When Moses came to Jethro, he was lost. When Moses came to Jethro, he was in a broken state. He didn't know who he was. He didn't know what he should do. He didn't know because 40 years of his life before he met Jethro, he thought he was one thing. He thought he was somebody else. He thought he was going to be the next Pharaoh. He thought he was an Egyptian, only to find out he wasn't. So then he spent the next 40 years trying to realize who he was. And he was fine with being the son-in-law of Jethro. He was fine just being a sheep herder and not owning his own thing, not being in charge of anything, just going with the flow. Until he saw that burning bush. So Jethro is probably proud of the man that Moses has become because he had something to do with it. So I want to stop right there and say this: when we're dealing with people, when we're dealing with, and I don't want to say you, right? I'm going to take a different stance. When we're dealing with people that are young in Christ, when we're dealing with people that are young in Christ, we should want to instill something in them. We should want to plant a seed in them that will help them grow. We might not be the person that waters it, but we want to plant something in them. Then if somebody has planted something in them, we want to be able to help water that seed. But we always want to do something to help somebody reach the next level of their destiny. And I had to be careful when I said that because we don't want to be their footstool. We want to be able to help them reach the next phase of their destiny. So Jethro helped Moses through this, so he was happy. And not only that, he heard about it. He heard about it, and I want to put an emphasis on that too, because we get so upset about what people post on Facebook, what people post on this and all of that. We get, and I'm talking about myself right now, get upset at Fox News and all of this news outlet when they post stuff. Um, but I got to realize, news was traveling before it was news. People were hearing about stuff before all of that. They heard about Jesus, and we sure it wasn't that much out TV. Matter of fact, a lot of the times the angels came and told the story. Right? Now, by the time it got somewhere else, the story was all messed up. But we see news is going to travel. Matter of fact, when we think about it, how did we get the Bible? The Bible was written by people telling the story. Because we found out the first 5 books of the Bible was written by Moses. Moses wasn't there at the beginning. Somebody had to tell Moses how creation was made. Somebody had to tell him that in order for him to write the story. So the next thing I'm going to bring up before we move on, somebody's going to tell you a story. Somebody's going to tell it. So why not tell your own story? Why not make sure, because you are the author and the architect, or I ain't gonna say God's the architect of your story and the author, but you are the main character in your story. So why not be able to tell your own story? How do you tell your testify? How do you tell your story? You tell people about what you used to go through. Because you shouldn't be ashamed at what you used to be, because what you used to be, God used to make you who you are right now. So he saw and heard everything that Moses had did. He heard about the greatness of God's work through Moses. Now, granted, Jethro already knew who God was, and he probably knew what God can do, but he probably was amazed that God used Moses. But have you ever just sat back and saw God work through some people, and you be like, wow? I didn't, I know God is powerful. I know God is great, but man, for him to use that person to do great work, it just amazes you sometimes. Um, so we see that, and we see that Moses, Jethro is now bringing Zipporah and Moses' sons back with him. Now, we've been through Exodus 1 all the way through 17. We haven't heard Moses send them away. So we don't know when Moses sent them away. The only reason why we know he sent them away is because right here they're coming back to him. So I looked because I was curious. I said, I need to find out when this was. And some theologians are all over the place. Some are thinking most agree that it was during the plagues that he sent them away because he didn't want them to see or deal with them. But the thing is, when I look at it, Moses trying to be um, the best person he could be at that time, still wanted to make sure his family was safe. I believe in God, but I want to make sure I know God is going to watch out for my family, but I don't want them to be subjected to what is craziness that Pharaoh is about to do. So can somebody say, well, Moses didn't trust God the way he wanted to because he didn't have his family stay right there with him? But sometimes we got to realize it, and that could be, but sometimes you got to realize when you're doing the work of the Lord will allow you to send family and friends to a safe place so you can concentrate on the task at hand. All Moses did was send his kids and his wife back home and probably told them to pray while they were there, right? Because I need you to go somewhere where I know you're safe at. But not only that, he didn't just send them anywhere. He sent them to a praying man's house. Sent them to somewhere that will still be someone to pray for them. And now we see things are kind of easing out. They're coming back. Which leads me to this point. Sometimes family, you, sometimes you will have to separate yourself from family. Sometimes you have to separate yourself from the ones you love, the ones you care about, to do what thus says the Lord. That's a tough pill to swallow sometimes. I got to separate myself from those I love in order to do the work of the Lord. And sometimes it's just as simple as this with him. The Lord allows them to be moved, to be separated from you, because of the people that you're about to fight, the people that you're about to go up against, will try to use everything they can against you. The devil will try to use everything he can against you, and a lot of the time, the devil will not attack you. He will attack the people that are around you. Don't believe him if they tell you. Huh? The devil got into Job's wife and told Job to curse God and die. God wasn't going to allow nobody to stop what he was doing to Pharaoh. He didn't want nobody else to take the blame for what Pharaoh did but Pharaoh. So sometimes we have to realize the Lord will place us in a situation, and at the same time He's placing us in a situation, He's keeping our family safe. So could it be when we don't do what we're supposed to do, we are the ones when God has put them in safety, and God has put them in a place of safety, our inability to serve, our inability to worship, our inability to do what thus says the Lord puts them back in danger. Just a thought. Just a thought. So we see them coming to Moses. Um, and after they get there, he sends word to Moses that I'm bringing your wife and your sons to him. So in verse 7 through 12, we see, so Moses went out and met his father-in-law and bowed down and kissed him. They greeted each other and then went into the tent. Moses told his father-in-law about everything that the Lord had done to Pharaoh and the Egyptians for Israel's sake, and about all the hardships they had met along the way and how the Lord had saved them. Jethro was delighted to hear about all the good things that the Lord had done for Israel and rescuing them from the hands of the Egyptians. He said, praise be to the Lord, rescue you from the hand of the Egyptians and of Pharaoh, and who rescued the people from the hands of the Egyptians. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all other gods, for he did this to those who had treated Israel arrogantly. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought in a burnt offering and other sacrifices to God, and Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat a meal with Moses' father-in-law in the presence of God. So Moses heard about his father-in-law and his wife and kids coming. I want y'all to notice something here. Who did Moses go out and greet? His father-in-law. With his father-in-law, right? Moses is really, truthfully at this point, closer to God than the father-in-law. Father-in-law is priest, Moses is the bishop right now. If you want to look at it, right? But Moses is still humble enough to go out and meet his father-in-law, and not only meet the father-in-law, it says he bowed down to the father-in-law because he knew the father-in-law was the one that put him in the position where he was at. And he wanted to tell his father-in-law about everything that happened. About everything that happened. Moses didn't see him as a father-in-law. He probably really saw him as a father figure. Saw him as somebody that not only he loved, but respected. And he wanted to tell him about all the good things and the miracles that he saw. And that kind of amazed me. I was like, Jethro told me, he said, I'm bringing your wife and your sons to you. But Moses ran out and bowed down to his father-in-law. Now that doesn't say he didn't meet and greet his wife and his kids, but he wanted to tell his father-in-law, the God that you introduced me to has done great things. The God that you showed me, the God that you gave me permission to go and serve and let me and free my people. Let me tell you about what he's done. Now, granted, Jethro had already heard this, right? watch this. This is something I want to catch on to too. You know, Jethro didn't say nothing. Even though he knew what God had done, he wanted to hear it from Moses and act like he never heard it before. You know, we have the tendency when somebody testifies, and you know, you have some people that say the same testimony week after week after week after week. The same matter of fact, they can testify so much as you can tell it yourself. And know when they're gonna say this and when they're gonna say that. But guess what? That was a tragic time for them. And they want to tell it. So we should be willing to listen if they're willing to tell it. Even though we heard the same story over and over and over again. How many times you watch your favorite movie over and don't get tired of it? And will tell people, you need to hush, I'm trying to watch this movie. They get mad when they tell you what's going to happen, even though you saw it. Come on. But Jethro sat there and listened in amazement, right? Because even though he heard it from somebody else, he wanted to get it from somebody that was there. And Moses told him everything that had happened. Everything. Now, if we go back, remember God, Jethro already introduced God to Moses when Moses talked about the burning bush and all of that. So Moses, Jethro, during these 40 years that Moses was with him, probably was praying, probably was doing everything that a priest should do. And maybe invite Moses to do a lot of stuff, but Moses saw it. Sometimes we ain't got to throw the Bible at somebody. We ain't got to try to make somebody love God. We ain't got to force nobody to believe in Jesus. Our actions will speak louder than words. A lot of times, if we're just doing what we're supposed to do for the Lord, people will migrate to the Lord because they're going to see us go through stuff. And you got to think, 40 years that Moses was with Jethro, you got to think some had happened. The Bible may not tell it, but you got to think a wolf or a bear or a lion or something tried to get some of the sheep. Something had to happen where Jethro had to show Moses how faithful he was to God. And Moses seeing that, saying, okay, okay. A lot of times when you realize people are watching you, they see what you're going to do in your situation, they're going to see how you're going to react when that person coming up to you calling you everything but a child of God. And you've been playing your Christmas music. You've been playing your gospel music. You're reading your Bible every time you go somewhere. You're trying to live right. Now they're going to see if you really practicing what you preach. And time you get out of character, what's the first thing they're going to say? See, that's going to go to that church anyway. That's going to build the church over there. But time they see you not doing what they thought you were gonna do, they'll come up and say, "Oh, I see you in change because I remember you a long time ago. You fucking told them a piece of your mind. I was Sister Brett. I was hiding because I thought you were finna pull out something and shoot everybody up in there." They see that. So it wasn't that Jethro didn't know God. He knew how wonderful God was because he was the one that introduced Moses to God. So he knew how wonderful God is. But watch this. After he heard everything that Moses went through, all the hardships and all of the stuff that Moses had to endure dealing with Pharaoh and dealing with the people. What's the first thing Jethro said? Jethro, Jethro was delighted to hear about all the good things that the Lord had done for Israel in rescuing them from the hands of the Egyptians. He said, "Praise be to the Lord who rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians and from Pharaoh and rescued the people from the hands of the Egyptians. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all other gods, for he did this to those who had threatened Israel arrogantly. Jethro knew who God was, like we said. But now, even if it was a little doubt, even if it was a little uncertainty, it was erased. Even if it was just a little smidgen of doubt, after he heard Moses say everything, because a lot of times, watch this, when you hear something, it's kind of hard to believe some stuff that you hear. If you hear somebody come up to you and say, Sister Sims, I was standing there in Chattahoochee fishing, and I looked down at the dam and the water split, and I seen people walking through. You're going to say you done lost your everlasting mind. Matter of fact, you probably going to pack up your stuff and leave from where that person is, right? But when you start hearing more and more people say it, then okay, maybe this got some truth to it. So after Jethro heard Moses saying it, he was there and getting first account of it, because Moses probably was telling him the story of passion. Probably, and some things, when you tell stories to people, sometimes you get so emotional, you can't even tell it without tears running down your eyes. All right. So I just imagine Moses telling Jethro, we were at the Red Sea, and the people was trying to destroy me. I didn't know what to do. And when I saw that sea open and the Lord spoke to me and told me to raise my staff up, and the sea parted, people probably can't you imagine tears rolling down his eyes, right then. So Jethro said, I know that the God that I serve, the God that I preached about, the God that I've been telling everybody else about, there's no doubt in my mind now that he's greater than all these other gods. Because every now and then somebody's going to tell you that the God you serve ain't no good. Every now and then people going to tell you Jesus ain't really real. Every now and then people going to tell you you need to stop worshiping. You need to stop going down to that church. You need to stop doing this. You need to stop doing that, because they don't believe. And then some happens. And because sometimes, let's just be honest, people start to tell you that, especially, let's look at this one, during COVID. You as a prime example. Because people, when the church start closing their doors and saying, well, you can have services inside the church. You don't know how many times I heard people say, I thought y'all trusted God. I thought y'all trusted him in the Lord and all this. If y'all trust him so much, why y'all ain't in the church? Why y'all ain't doing this? Why y'all ain't exercising y'all faith now? And somebody will hear that and be like, well, you know what? They really right. The Lord, every time they do an invitation to discipleship, they say the doors of the church have always been open since Jesus died. So I guess it ain't true. People will start getting in your head to make you question your own faith. And watch this. People are so conniving and so good, people will start making you question who you are. Because people will tell you who you are, and they ain't known you for 3 days. And you've known yourself your whole life. And they make you think you know yourself before. People will do that. So there's no doubt in my mind, Jethro had some people that was in his ear saying, Jethro, that God you serve, that God that you're talking about, ain't the true God. Ain't the true God. He can't compare to the God that I know. He can't compare to the God of light. He can't compare to the God of wind or all these other gods that he can't compare to. But when Jethro heard that, when Jethro heard Moses' testimony, he knew without a shadow of a doubt that the God that he served, the God that he talked about, the God that he preached about was greater than all of the gods. Now, let me say this and I'm going to move on. We got to understand that there are other gods out there. And if you notice, when you look at our text, the only wise God. Lord of lords, King of kings. All right? God never said there were other gods out there. That's why he said, you shall put no other gods before who? Me. I'm not disputing there's other ones. But what I'm telling you, I'm the one. Mhm. Right? I'm not telling you that there's not going to be people up there that's trying to challenge me. They're going to try to take my throne. But can I tell you without a shadow of a doubt, many have tried, none will never succeed. Matter of fact, one of my best friends, one of the ones that I had in heaven, the one that was my worship leader, the one that always got people stirred up, the choir, I had to throw him down out of heaven. Y'all know him as the devil because he tried to challenge. He tried to take over. And guess what? He's still trying and still not succeeding. So sometimes every now and then people want to get you to question your own faith. Situations will get you to question your own religion, but then you should hear something, see something, and realize I'm okay. I'll be all right. The song that I played last night on that Monday night on the prayer line, um, I know I'll make it after all, by Ranch Allen. I don't know what tomorrow's gonna hold, but I realize no matter what tomorrow holds, I'm gonna make it. Reason why I'm gonna make it, because I realize who I serve. I realize who has me. Moses told Jethro everything that happened, and now Jethro realizes all my hard work has paid off. Everything that I've taught, everything that I've preached, everything that I've said has paid off. How many of you sit back and just look at some of the members of the church? Some of the members of the church, you look at him, you look at Amar, look at RJ, you look at all of them and say, I had a part in that, raising that. I had a part in guiding me. Because a lot of times when we used to go to see Sister Collins, Fanny Collins, she always bring up little people. She'll bring up Sister Cena. She'll bring up Sister Laura. And I said, they were this big when I was. And I always tell them, I'm reaping the benefits of your harvest right now. It's always good to sit back and see people that you helped out, to see people that you prayed for, see people you cried about, see people that you got mad because they did something stupid, and you knew that wasn't them. You knew that wasn't them, and you did everything you could to hold your peace. Them the ones that did it. Jethro saw Moses doing good, and he got a praise report. And in that praise report, he said, I know there's no other God. I know there's no other gods. Then they went into a feast. So we look now after they went into the feast and everybody came in. Verses 13 through 16 says, the next day Moses took his seat to serve as judge for the people, and they stood around him from morning to evening. When his father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he said, what is this you are doing for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge while all these people stand around you from morning to evening? Moses answered him, because the people come to me to seek God's will. Whenever they have a dispute, it is brought to me, and I decide between the parties and inform them of God's decree and instructions. So we see now we got to the point that the people are fighting with each other now. Right? And watch this. Issues going on, so they ain't fighting with Moses. All right? But now they're fighting with each other. And they're looking to Moses for guidance. It amazes me. The same one they said, Moses, why you brought us out here to die? Moses, you did this. Moses, we ain't disputing against God. We don't like you. It ain't got nothing to do with God. We don't like what you did. Now they're fighting with each other and going to Moses. Can I tell you, if you just hold on, if you just hold on to God, sometimes your hand, and if you just keep doing what you're supposed to do, the same people that wanted to kill you will be the same ones that's coming to you for help. The same ones that destroy you will be the same ones that come to you for help. The same ones that didn't like you be the same ones that come to you for help. But you cannot allow your people to still destroy you, because what they were doing was they were bringing all these issues to Moses, and they were draining Moses from sun up to sundown. How many of you had this on your jobs, even at the house, community, or wherever, had to deal with the situation? And that one situation you dealt with drained you. Now imagine time you dealt with that situation, another one came. Then after you got through with that one, another one came. 10 hours later, you still dealing with other situations, other problems, right? And a lot of the times it's the same argument, just different people. You go to bed, what? Wore out. Then you wake up and guess what? Got to do it all over again. That's what Moses was dealing with. And his father-in-law saw that. And that's why it's always good to have somebody around you that can give you wise counsel. That's why it's always good to have somebody around you that can speak to you, and when they talk to you, you're able to listen and not get upset, not get offended. A lot of times, we people don't want to speak to us or talk to us or help us because every time they try to give us advice, we jump down their throat. Every time they try to give us godly counsel, we always throw a butt in there. But this, but that, but this. Our Jethro told Moses, look, he asked him, what are you doing? He didn't assume that, he wanted to make sure, because he said, what are you doing? Oh, the people come to me if they got a dispute. That means if me and Sister Britt don't agree on anything, you know, this is a penny. A penny is 1 cent. Sister Britt says 2 cents. We're gonna go to Sam and make him decide. Right? We can't settle it on our own. Every dispute went to him. So day in and day out, this is all he did. Judge. And now you got to realize there's two sides to a story. So time you choose one side, what happens with the other? So regardless of what's happening, Moses is still having to deal with people that don't like him. Because whatever decision he makes, somebody's gonna say, I should have stayed in Egypt. Somebody's gonna say, that's why I don't like you now. Because you didn't choose my side. So watch this. Because people are gonna say that. People always want you to choose sides. I will always say, don't choose a side, choose what's right. And sometimes what's right is not to choose a side at all. Sometimes to be right, you got to say both of y'all are wrong. Sometimes you got to say, you know what, both of y'all are wrong. Both of y'all is acting childish. Both of y'all, yeah, I want to say it like, both of y'all need to find Jesus. Both of y'all are wrong, just plain out wrong. And watch this, sometimes you got to be able to tell the one you love, the one that respects you the most, and came to you, your best friend. And you got to say, you know what, you're wrong in that situation. You're just plain out, I ain't taking no sides, but you know. You know you shouldn't have cussed that person out from A to Z. You know you should, you wrong. Because at the end of the day, they have no heaven or hell to put you in, right? I'm not judging you, even though it says Moses was judging. I'm not, that's not my job. My job is to speak truth to situation. And the only way I can speak truth to the situation is tell you the truth. Truth is, you wrong. They're right, you wrong. Sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes it ain't no black and white. You got to realize that the time you tell somebody they wrong, that's the time they ain't gonna like you no more. So guess what? It ain't on you. Either you pray and ask the Lord to mend their broken heart, but it's up to them to get over it. You can't keep trying to please them because time you try to make it up to them, first thing they're gonna say, well, you knew you was wrong in the first place. So Jethro asked Moses, what are you doing? Sun up to sundown. They come to him. And when you look at verse 17, Moses' father-in-law replied, oh, what are you doing? You and these people who come to you will only wear yourself out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone. Listen listen now to me, and I will give you some advice. And may God be with you. You must be the people's representative before God and bring their disputes to Him. Teach them His decrees and instructions and show them the way they are to live and how they behave. But select capable men from all the people, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officers over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Have them serve as judges for the people at all times, but have them bring every difficult case to you. The simple cases they can decide themselves. That will make your load lighter because they will share it with you. If you, I'm on verse 23. If you do this and God so commands you, will be able to stand the strain, and all these people will go home satisfied. Jethro, and watch this. He said, if you will listen to me and God being your help, I want you to listen, but I want you to talk to God too. Because I'm just seeing this and I'm giving you the advice because I see you getting wore out. But I don't know what God told me. The woman has had conversations before. And I told her, this is what I do. If God told you to do something else, you better do what God tells you to do. Don't be mad if God strike me and you down. So he told him, this is what you need to do, but allow God to lead you. You need to find people that are trustworthy. You need to find people that are honest. You need to find people, not the ones that every time someone wrong wanted to act the fool. Look at the ones that were on your side. Because you got to realize not everybody was after Moses every time something went wrong. And it amazes me when I think about it, how God put Moses in that situation so he could see who people were. The Lord will put us in situations not to test us, but to reveal to us who's around us. Sometimes He puts us in circumstances so we can see who our so-called friends are. So we can see the wolves in sheep clothing. So we can see them snakes. He puts us in those situations so we can know who we really can depend on. So Jethro said, find the one that that's willing to help. Find the ones that know the Lord for themselves too. That way, you can concentrate on guiding the people. But what you need to do too is make sure you're instructing the people. Make sure you're telling them what thus says the Lord. Make sure you're allowing them to grow. Because if you continue this way, there's no growth. We as parents, we as adults, we can't continue doing everything for our kids. We can't continue doing everything for them. We got to allow them to grow. But watch this. I don't know if you realize this or not by reading that. Jethro instituted the class leader system for the AME Church. Right then and there. I don't know if you realize that. That's the first thing I thought about, Sister Laura, when I read that. Jethro just, just did the class leader system for the AME Church. Because what did it say? Get people that are godly. And I know it said man, but we're going to say men and women that are godly. That will handle disputes. Then, if they can't handle it, then they bring it all the difficult stuff to you. You read that the doctrine of discipline of the AME Church. It tells the class leaders if anything is going on with your class, their members supposed to come to who first? The class leader. Then if the class leader can't settle or help them, then who the class leader go to? The pastor. Class leader system was the same thing. Class leaders are supposed to help and give godly counsel to the classes. So the classes can always go home satisfied. Then if something happens to where the class leader can't deal with it, go to the pastor. If the pastor can't deal with it, the pastor should go to the presiding elder. Presiding elder can't deal with it, go to the bishop. Hmm? So Jethro just instructed our class leader system. And he says, so all can go away satisfied. There is no reason in the AME Church, the AME Church, that members should be upset. There's no reason why there should be disharmony in the church. Because it's set up, the church, the AME Church is set up to succeed. When you look at the class leader system, when you look at the checks and balances, yeah, I know we're going through some stuff now because people weren't checking and doing the balances that they're supposed to. But the AME Church is set up for the church to grow, the church to succeed. We got to be willing to go by the playbook. God sets us up to succeed. We just got to be willing to go by the playbook. The Lord has given us the Bible. Given us now, granted, we may say not every situation, everything that we deal with may not be in the Bible. You know, they may not talk about nuclear war and all of this, but they talk about war. He gives us instructions for things that we go through. We just got to be willing to listen. We got to be willing to take his counsel and be willing to listen to others. Because like I said, when I read this, I'm going to get to this last report, the class leaders was set up to do just that. It was set up. And not only that, what he was telling Moses, you're still in charge, right? But that don't mean you can't get people on your team help. God knew who the leader was. God knew who was in charge. But at the same time, as leaders, you got to be willing to delegate. You got to be willing to say, I need help. You got to be willing to be able to listen to other people. As AM leaders and as class leaders, that since we do have some here, um, one thing I always hated, is every time I heard from the church was when the church wanted money. Only time the church called, because you know we got this program, you're gonna be able to do this or that. I was sick 2 weeks ago. I didn't hear from the church then. I was going through something. I didn't hear from the church then. Class leaders kind of dispute, but it also says in the district class leaders, always remember, if you have a member that hadn't been to church in 2 weeks, you should call. You should reach out. One of the things I always ask them board is there anything that I need to know about anybody on the class, the class member? And I do it so often that I notice that the members of second class leaders are telling me, you know, Sister, they're telling me what's going on with the class before the class. Because when I first got here, in my mind, I said, you know what? They're going to get tired of me asking. So either they're going to call the report to give a report, but they're going to call them. So they're going to get tired of me asking, and they don't have a report. So it's set up to succeed because people want to feel good. People want to appreciate it. People want to feel like their concerns are being heard. With Jethro telling Moses to appoint people, they felt like they were among their peers. They were more respected because their concerns were being heard. And they didn't have to wait 8 hours. And thinking the only reason why he said this, he blew us off because he was tired. They felt like they was a part of something. They felt like they were, they felt like they were appreciated. And when you get people feel like they're appreciated, feel like their concerns are being heard, you get a stronger church. You get a stronger community. So these nuts acted up, you'll see in the next chapter. but you put it in place, and all you can do is what you can do. And when we look at the last part of this, verse 24 through 27, after Jethro told this, once again, Moses is still humble enough to listen. No matter how big you get, you still should be humble enough to listen to somebody. There's no, the reason why our former president, Trump, is in a lot of the situations that he's in, even before he was president, is because he didn't listen to nobody. He even wanted to make all the rules and he wanted everybody to listen to him. But when it came to people trying to guide him, he didn't want to listen. He thought he was bigger. Well, he thinks he's bigger than the system. You got to be able to, no matter how big and bad you are, you got to be able to listen to somebody. It says right here, Moses listened to his father-in-law and did everything he said. He chose capable men from all of Israel and made them leaders of the people, officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. They served as judges for the people at all times. The difficult cases they brought to Moses, but the simple ones they decided themselves. Then Moses sent his father-in-law on his way, and Jethro returned to his own country. A lot of times you have to realize, family reunions, cookouts, but most of the family reunions, family gets together, and it's normally that chance you get to see that family member that always give you some good advice. Always you can sit there and talk to them. You don't normally talk to them all the time. Even though you got a cell phone, even though you got all of this. But you talk to that one family member every time you see them, you sit there and talk to them. And it seems like they give you great advice. And then they go on about their way and you don't talk to them no more for a little while. And it may not even be a family, it may be somebody that just see every now and then. The one that you call when things are going rough. It may not even be a family member. It could be a member of the church. It could be a member of the community. Sometimes, you know, as a pastor, I don't hear from a lot of people until they're going through stuff. And they call and talk. Um, and I may hear from them again when they want some advice or stuff like that in our family. A lot of times you got to realize people know who they can call in rough times. People know who they can depend on and lean on when things get rough. Jethro showed up in Moses' life again, right at the right time. It amazes me how people show up in your life at the right time. 40 years ago, Jethro showed up in Moses' life. When Moses was at a point at his lowest, when Moses was at a point where he didn't know what he was going to do, how he was going to do it, and when he was going to do it. Jethro showed up. Now Moses has grown. He has become more powerful. He has become more wiser. He has become more important. He's got a title on him. He knows who he is. He knows he has to lead the people. And got to the point where he's trying his best to lead the people the only way he knows how. And Jethro shows up again and gives him some more counsel him through the next 40 years. Don't worry about who's not in your life. Don't worry about these people that always are saying this or that. Focus on the ones that always giving you good. Focus on the ones every now and then when they show up. It seems like everything gets better. But watch this. A lot of us, we hear, we say, look to the hills. It comes out here. Because all our help comes from here. And for some reason, we're always looking up and missing that he's right there in front of us. Missing he's right there beside us. Missing he's right there under us. What do you mean for us? Because he's carrying us every step of the way. You don't have to look up for the Lord. Just look within. If you can't see him within, that's the problem. That's the problem. And when people come to try to help you, not only find yourself, but find the Lord. Be careful of what you say, how you say it. Because the person that you're attacking may be the person that's better help. So we thank each and every one of you again for joining us tonight. It is our prayer that through this lesson, because I wasn't going to teach this lesson, I wasn't going to actually skip over it and go straight to chapter 19, because 19 is more fun, because we get to Mount Sinai. And Moses is getting ready to go up on the hill. But it was something to be said about wise counsel. There's something to be said about being humble in our state that we're in. So continue to be humble for the rest of this year. Continue to pray for those that are less fortunate. Continue to pray for those that loved ones have transitioned this week. Prayerfully, the Lord will, those that can and will. We will prayerfully see you all Saturday, Friday for Brother Dave's homegoing service. Sister Laura, do you know when the viewing is going to be tomorrow? Probably 3 to 6. Okay, and they will probably have a viewing here before the service from about 10 to probably 10 to 11. So those that can, please come out. Like we said for Sunday, those that can, please wear red or black. Get your speech together for Bishop, whatever you want to say, and we will cut it and do whatever it is with that. With that being said, we'll ask Brother McChapel to close us out in prayer. I tell y'all Merry Christmas, but I see y'all Sunday. Lord,
Father, now, when we come to a close, turn our home to very place. I pray, thank you, Father, for the years and period of our life. Then, Father, that we in the midst of this holiday season, Father. I pray, Father, you put your all the protection all around. Guide us and protect us in all of our ways. Then, Father, let us continue, Father, to pray that you give us mercy. And, Father, you know the period and anger, Father. Put that protection on the face of the way. Thank you, Father, in your name. Continue to go with this town. Continue to give him the knowledge of will understand. He will guide him like in the spiritual family. And just have mercy upon him. Give him all the faith in the morning that didn't want to do something today, Father. Come around, Father, for the other day. Let them know for you, God, that you have love. You got the best in that son, Jesus' name. Amen.
once again, thank you all again.
Where you get?
I can't tell you
But you saw what I showed, right? What you say what I showed you? What did you say what I showed you?
Stay warm.
I didn't think you needed to work for all. I didn't think you needed to work for all, but the other one, yeah. Yeah. We gonna get you. When I saw that, I was like,